Hey there friends, welcome back to another HouseFlipper2 Sandbox Mode video. This time around, there's a lot of really great houses out there, a lot of great content creators making these amazing buildings, mostly wonderful homes. And then I thought, what if we didn't build a house? What if we built a bookshop? And so that's what this is, me attempting to build a bookshop. In fact, another game I play recently, I did a bookstore build for Dinkum, and I was on a roll and was just like, you know what, I'll try to translate this over to HouseFlipper2. And this is me. At the very beginning there, you saw like a little inspiration picture that I happened to be browsing the internet and was like, I like this. This reminds me of bookshops in our own downtown area or the neighboring town, the bookstores that I see in the downtown area there. And it just seemed very reminiscent of more of a small town bookstore feel. And I thought this will be fairly easy to recreate. Let's do that. And it also just all the practice I can get doing Sandbox Mode, I definitely take advantage of that. So yeah, this bookstore is inspired kind of by some stores I've seen in real life in my local area without actually using those photos in this video. So I was trying to find something that was very similar, and here we go. Now, I really wanted to mimic the writing on the windows, and I have yet to figure out how to do that because I couldn't get in HouseFlipper2 for PNG files to show up where you have like a transparent background. They wouldn't register, and so I clearly was doing something wrong because I've seen other people do something similar to this, but I've got some more learning to do before I get to that point. So yeah, we'll see what comes of it. But yeah, here I'm trying to get these windows just right, and it goes through a few iterations. As you're building this, I'm not an architect. I have zero background in architecture. I have zero background in interior design. Some of this comes from my imagination. Some of it's from photographic inspiration or things I find online. I do a lot better if I have some sort of a jumping off point. If I can take something like the bookshop that was in that example photo at the very beginning and turn it into, add more to it and change some things here and there, then, I think for me, that works. Other people want to just do everything completely from their imagination, and I think that's fantastic. I wish I could do that. But yeah, here we are struggling with the door and the window situation, and eventually I figure it out. It takes a minute, but I do get there. So this was a lot of fun to do. It was definitely a different challenge than doing a house. And as you'll see later, there were some compromises that had to be made in terms of some of the decorating, just because of the nature of what we have available in the game so far. But yeah, I'm not gonna talk this entire time, I promise. I'm gonna take a step back for just a minute and let you guys enjoy, and I'll be back in a bit. One of the things I like to do is to mix up some textures and colors. Sometimes things tend to look very flat and same, and the example picture actually had different textures on the building itself. I imagine that it was part of an older downtown area of wherever this building was from, whatever city it was from. And, in a downtown area, you've got all those buildings kind of just stacked on top of each other, one right next to the other. And so they share some common walls and common facades in that way. But I wanted it to be a little bit more uniform than the example picture, so I played around with different textures with, gravel and granite and rock and stone. And this is me playing around with the different combinations and color variations and all those good things. I think one of the things that can make a building kind of come to life is using different textures rather than just painting everything a color. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but definitely utilizing the tools to make it the cut pattern of, like wood or like a tile of some kind or like siding. And it definitely livens up the way that it can look and not look quite so flat and static. I still have some improvement I can do in this area, but every time I do a build, I definitely I feel like I get a little bit better at figuring these things out. Again, this was me trying to copy the example picture, and I was just not loving this concrete brick look on the building itself. So I start making some changes, and I was like, yeah, let's add some architectural, if I can get that word out, kind of variation, and make these outside edges pop out just a little bit more. The building was looking a little flat, and that was the reasoning there. And then I really liked this like stacked stone look. I felt like it could definitely be like an older downtown area type of facade. In fact, our local downtown area has a building that has that outside, that same sort of stone masonry look. And I really like it. And I feel like it gives that sort of homey bookshop sort of feel. Now, I tend to go with, fairly modern furniture and modern colors. And so I feel like this build was a little bit outside my comfort zone, a little bit like the English cottage, where I was trying to do something a little different than what I normally do. The outside for the example picture had these lovely little planters that had beautiful flowers in them, and I definitely knew I wanted to do that as well here, because I feel like in games like this, plants just seem to liven everything up. It's part of a design. It kind of just gives it some life that it didn't have before. And you get to watch me here kind of struggle with coloring these where they look good. It's all part of the process, as we say. I feel like all these older downtown buildings tend to have beams and Other things that are, structurally in the building itself make it a little bit more interesting architecturally, and kind of fill in corners. Sometimes corners can be kind of awkward. I start out with a single width, and I think I do end up adding to this later on because of what I ended up doing in these two window display areas. I was trying to create like what you would see in any kind of downtown area where you have these big window displays, and also it gives you a very like open and wide look into the shop, and maybe entices you to come inside and take a look at what's being sold. We buy with our eyes first, right? So I used desks to kind of create the illusion of like this shelving or tabling that, was built into the side of the window. And then here we go with all the books. This quickly became one of those very, very tedious jobs in HouseFlipper. When you do a bookshop with a bunch of bookshelves and books as the kind of main thing, and there's no real way to like, okay, I've got this shelf exactly how I want it. There's no way to copy and paste that and do it quickly in a repeat somewhere. So I spent a lot of free time, and I mean a lot of free time, putting books on shelves in this bookshop. And after a while, I kind of give up. And you'll see kind of what I did to reason my way out of that. I thought it kind of added a fun little story, and we'll get there. When we get there, I'll tell you what I was thinking and how I came to that conclusion. But yeah, I was trying to make these nice little window displays that you would see if you're walking down the sidewalk, and you'd be like, oh, I want that book, and then you stop on in. And then again, I was going for like this older, because, our family used to own a coffee shop downtown. Everything, we tried to keep a lot of the natural lighting or architecture or different things that were involved there. And so a lot of this is inspired by, my own experience owning buildings downtown in our local downtown area, and just the kind of things that get used in those buildings. So this is very heavily influenced by my real life and shops that, in fact, my brother-in-law owns a consignment furniture store, and the entranceway looks very, very similar to this. And that's one of the buildings that, I was kind of serves as an inspiration, and looked very similar to the example fixture I posted at the very beginning of the video, which I will put back up again here towards the end so you guys can kind of get a comparison and see how I did. But yeah, these kinds of lights were pretty common. I was also going for like that tiled ceiling look, where you have those squares that are, like what do they call them? Medallion plates or things like that. And so I chose a wallpaper that was going to give me kind of a similar feel, and kind of gives you that tiled ceiling look without necessarily having to make a bunch of tiles. And so here we go with the bookshelves, guys. The endless bookshelves. I feel like this went on forever, and I really, after a while, was like, I'm gonna have to fill all these shelves with books. Oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? And I did. I worked on it for a very long time, being all like, I wanted this to be kind of like a used bookstore, maybe, with a few new titles, here and there. And to do a used bookstore, you've got to do all these like different colored books and different sized books. And I mean, it looks really cool when you do it, but then to do that over and over and over again, I think it took me, I sat there in between different work things or different streams that I was watching and just put books on shelves. And I felt like I made zero progress. It just went on forever. So this is me building the kind of the checkout desk, where you would go and pay for your books. And I did decide to use the cabinetry in the game to achieve this look with a big rounded corner. Imagine going into an older building in a downtown area, and you have this big built-in desk that everybody would come to. So that was the inspiration here, and I liked it. I liked that it wasn't like a regular desk. It looked like a built-in to the wall. And then, of course, gotta have a lot of light in a bookstore so you can read and see what you're reading. And here we go. This is the endless book shelving that we were doing. It's fairly easy once you get the books up there to kind of go through and change them. There's nothing about it that's hard. It's just time consuming. And I really wanted it to have this variety look. But again, it was just taking so much time. I could not figure out a quicker way to do it. And everything I was doing, I wanted to change the books to where every book was different looking. And it, like I said, took a very long time. I would probably still be sitting here putting books on shelves if I had filled every single shelf the way I initially and originally intended to do it. But I wanted to create these little seating areas to invite people to, sit down and consume some of the things that they, would enjoy reading or wanted to try to read. Sometimes you want to read before you buy or get a little sampling. And I do enjoy that. I appreciate when bookstores have comfortable seating. There is a lovely used bookstore in the next town over, and there's an entire seating area so that you can go and sit and, sample a book and then go buy it. So you know that you're going to like it. You get to try it out first. And I do appreciate that about bookstores. To make this feel more like a business build, not necessarily a house, I decided to do some stuff outside and put out some street lights and some tables and chairs and umbrellas to be able to go outside and sit and enjoy your book and a nice cup of coffee, which I think later on I show this little espresso bar that I set up inside to kind of make yourself a cup of coffee, like a Keurig machine. I've noticed that a lot of mom and pop bookstores have stuff like that now, and I really do enjoy that. I mean, what's better than a good book and a good cup of coffee, right? And as promised, the little coffee bar that I set up inside for any patrons who come in who want to make themselves a cup of coffee and browse the stacks. Just a little something, a little table, off to the side. The same bookstore I referenced a little while ago in the neighboring town, the used bookstore with a lovely, comfortable seating area, has a little coffee bar right there next to the seating area for anybody who wants to make a cup of coffee or hot chocolate or a cup of tea. The proprietor has several options, and I think that's just a special touch that a lot of businesses, especially mom and pop, homegrown businesses, utilize, and I do feel like that makes it a lot more enticing to go to a place like that. It's like, hey, I can get a free cup of coffee and sit and read a book, and it just creates a sense of community too, I think. So I really enjoy that. I know that's an expense for the person that owns the business, but I think it's a very valuable marketing tool that people don't realize that it definitely gives you this sense of home. Makes you feel comfortable. I also got the idea that it was just too white. The walls were too white, too plain, too bare. It was, kind of starting to not feel like a bookstore, like a downtown bookstore. And when I say a downtown, I'm talking a town with like 50,000 population or less. And I liked how this looked from the street with this, floral wallpaper. And then I go in and I put in some trim that matches the beams that are in the corners of each of the corners in this building. And I feel like that just kind of added a little bit more architecturally. Later on, which I don't think I show here, but I go back and I make the wallpaper go all the way to the floor behind the bookshelves. I feel like it just added a little bit more. It darkened that area up, made it less stark. And since I wasn't planning on putting books on every single bookshelf, I do feel like it kind of filled in and made it a little less obvious. But I don't think I show that here. I think I just do it and it got cut out, or I forgot to push record. I mean, just take your pick. It could have been any one of those options. I love the light rendering in this game. Adding the umbrellas definitely added some shade to the patio area that wasn't there before, and I really think that that's very lovely. I did end up putting little flower pots on every table. I don't know, I just really like the details of the shadows like that. it's that attention to detail in games that really makes them, especially with these ones that are somewhat realistic looking or have that more realism sort of art style. It definitely adds to the realism when the light renders the way that it does, that, it would in real life if that were the case. And here we are, more book placement, y'all. Get ready, because that happens a lot. Why say that? I think I cut out a lot of it, just so that y'all wouldn't have to watch the same thing over and over and over and over again. I promise I do go back and I do change some of these covers. So one of the stories that I kind of came up with to kind of make this whole thing plausible, so why aren't these books, why isn't every single shelf just completely full of books? Well, we can all use our imaginations and pretend like this is a new store opening. This new person took over the lease of this building and decided to open a lovely brick and mortar bookstore, which are running, they're few and far between these days. And they're unpacking their inventory. They're getting things out of boxes. They're getting shipments in daily. And, the shelves are not completely full because, well, the shop hasn't quite opened yet. So that's a little story I came up and told myself, so that way I wouldn't have to put books on every single shelf. I think, like I said, I would still be putting books on shelves to this day if I had put them on every single one. Would it have looked more impressive? Absolutely. And maybe in my free time, when I just need something mindless to do one day, I'll continue to work on this and maybe do like a new walkthrough with books on all the shelves. But until that day, we're just going to have to use our imaginations and pretend like this is a new store opening, that not all the inventory is out on the shelves. It would have been more impressive, I know, but my patience, and just for time constraint purposes, it just was not feasible. This would have taken me several days to complete, and I like to see what the finished product's going to look like, and I don't want to wait a week. So I decided to go in and add some sort of accent lighting on top of the bookshelves to create a little bit more, light and shadow and that kind of thing. But I used it on every other bookshelf, and I sort of sunk it in so that way, you wouldn't really notice it per se. It adds a little something, and I've seen other creators do stuff like this, and I was just like, well, they can do it, I can do it, and make it look maybe sort of as good. I just like that it gives you a subtle pop of light, and then it brightens up this darker wood with this darker wallpaper, while still keeping that very cozy and warm feel. Now that I've gotten the hang of the move tool, I've found it invaluable in terms of Sandbox Mode and how to use it to really make some things that maybe don't quite exist in the game yet. It's been really nice too. You can also get things a lot closer together with the move tool than you can with just the regular hand tool, and I do really like that. I mean, it does take some getting used to and some practice using it, don't get me wrong, but once you do kind of get the hang of it, you can do it fairly quickly, and it really does just open up a lot more possibilities for you. We can't just leave the outside bare. And obviously if this were in an actual downtown, there would be buildings right next to it. But for the sake of ease and comfort, we're just going to throw up a few trees and make it very cozy and, very well shaded in this lovely neighborhood. I do like how massive these trees are. They really do take up a lot of awesome surface area. And you know me and trees, love me some trees. So I do enjoy putting stuff like this in every build. It just adds a little something, a little nature something. I wanted to kind of hide this concrete edge a little bit more with something a little bit more manicured. And that's what we're doing with the hedges. And here we go. You've got the inspiration picture and the finished product. Or the mostly finished product. Perhaps this can be a work in progress as I add more books to the bookshelf. It was a lot of fun doing something that wasn't a house. And I am a big book lover. Those of my people who are longtime members of the channel know that I do a lot of reading as well as play video games. And so, you know, whenever there's an opportunity to build a bookstore in a video game, like, why wouldn't we? So here you can kind of see in the walkthrough that I did take that wallpaper all the way to the floor, and I do really like how that looks. It really kind of muted the area a little bit. It was a little too white, a little too in the face. And I really like that it kind of filled in some of the empty shelving. But yeah, if you believe my story, we're opening the shop, we're unloading inventory. Not all the shelves are going to be full just yet. You know, I think it excuses some of the empty shelves. This was fun. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. I hope maybe it inspires you to build something that's not a house. Maybe try your hand at a coffee shop or a clothing boutique. Well, that wouldn't work. We don't have clothes in the game yet. But, you know, something like that. A furniture store, even, if you wanted. There's several possibilities. And like I said, take any kind of photographic inspiration that you have and turn that into a building. I feel like I find that's the easiest jumping off point if you're like me, don't have any architecture experience. You aren't a home, like a interior designer. It helps get you from point A to point B and getting some of these things built. Again, I'm playing checkers. There's quite a few designers out there and content creators that are playing multi-level chess when it comes to HouseFlipper2, and they have made some amazing builds. I'm at the kindergarten level here, guys. So I hope this was enjoyable. I hope you guys had fun watching it. I had a ton of fun building it, and as a book lover, this is just right up my alley. If you guys create anything like this in HouseFlipper2, please feel free to go over to my Discord and share your images in our Discord HouseFlipper2 channel. All right, guys. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for us. Be sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you like this content. As always, guys, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others. I'll see you in the next one.